Reflections on Papal Leadership and Global Humanitarian Crises, a Call for Compassion. Pope Francis, the 266th Pontiff of the Roman Catholic Church, has long been a figure of both reverence and controversy. Over his 12-year papacy, he has championed themes of mercy, poverty alleviation, and environmental stewardship, earning praise for his pastoral approach. Yet, amid global turmoil, critics argue that his leadership has fallen short in addressing the acute suffering of vulnerable communities, particularly children in conflict zones like Palestine, the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, and beyond. The cry of the forgotten. Recent critiques, echoing sentiments from disillusioned faithful, highlight a perceived silence or inaction in the face of humanitarian catastrophes. In Palestine, where children endure the trauma of occupation and violence, and in the DRC, where decades of war have displaced millions and subjected minors to exploitation, many question whether the Vatican's diplomatic caution has overshadowed moral urgency. Similar concerns extend to crises in Sudan, Yemen, and Ukraine, where young lives are disproportionately impacted by war and neglect. While Pope Francis has repeatedly called for peace and solidarity in abstract terms, referring to war as a failure of humanity, detractors argue these messages lack tangible outcomes. What good are words without action? One critic lamented. The children of Palestine and Congo need more than prayers. They need advocacy, aid, and relentless pressure on global powers. The Vatican's balancing act. The Holy See's approach to geopolitical issues is often tempered by its diplomatic obligations and the complexities of global politics. Pope Francis has met with Palestinian leaders, advocated for refugee rights, and condemned resource exploitation in Africa. In 2023, the Vatican donated €6 million to humanitarian efforts in conflict zones. Yet, critics contend such gestures pale in comparison to the scale of suffering, particularly when systemic injustices persist. The Church's historical role as a mediator also raises questions. Does neutrality risk complicity? For instance, the Pope's calls for a ceasefire in Gaza or his symbolic gestures, kissing the feet of South Sudanese leaders to beg for peace, stir hope but are met with skepticism by those demanding concrete interventions. A spiritual reckoning. The anguish expressed in critiques like, "May God forgive you and us," underscores a deeper spiritual tension. It reflects a belief that religious leaders bear unique responsibility to defend the voiceless. For many, the abandonment of children, whether in war-torn regions, refugee camps, or impoverished nations, is not just a political failure but a moral one. Theological voices remind us that mercy and justice are intertwined. Faith without works is dead, says Reverend Carla Sanchez, a theologian. The Church must ask itself, are we shepherds to all God's children, or only those in pews? Moving forward, the call for divine mercy and self-reflection resonates beyond the Vatican. It challenges individuals, governments, and institutions to confront their roles in perpetuating or alleviating suffering. Pope Francis's legacy may hinge on whether future actions amplify his words. Will the Church leverage its vast resources and moral authority to pressure policymakers, fund grassroots aid, or broker peace? As the world grapples with escalating crises, the faithful and critics alike pray for a renewed commitment to the marginalized. The children of Palestine, Congo, and every corner of the globe await more than remembrance. They deserve a future. In the words of the psalmist, defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed. Psalm 82 verse 3. May this be our shared mission.